Oh my God.
Well, I thought I'd join in, but it's like 1 o'clock in the morning here.
Hey.
So apologies for my face.
How are you?
You guys okay? Just,
Apologies for my face.
Yeah.
No need to apologize, you should I? If that's the case, I should be apologizing every day.
Where are you? You showed
I'm in India.
Yes, where?
Right now I'm in Faridabad.
All right.
But in a day or two I'll go back to the Dham
Okay.
and go and see Didi. So I'll send some pictures once I'm.
Oh, have you still got her electric blanket?
Yeah, it's still in my room.
Oh, awesome. In
Hey,
the package.
So cute.
Hey, I can't see the option to share on Facebook. Where is it now?
Oh, you have to be host, Tarun.
Okay, can you make me host, Yashoda?
Yeah. I thought you already were. Oh yeah,
No,
okay,
I'm
making you
co-host.
Co-host.
Okay.
And then make you sure and the Prabhu co-host.
I know it is, Tarun, but I'm so bad with technology, I can't tell you.
There's the 3 buttons at the bottom of the screen. Now, Tarun, you'll see, and it'll say stream live.
Share on page you manage.
Look at that, came in for right good technical support.
Yeah, classics like a call center in India.
Yeah, does it feel like one? Do I sound like I'm in a call center? Hello, sir. This is I'm gonna make up a
No,
name
you
now.
just call yourself something like Sally or something.
I'm Rick.
Hello, this is Sally. How may I help you? What?
Exactly.
Oh my God, there's so many people on here. I'm so sorry.
You look like you're about to nod off, Yashadari, but it's fine. We understand if you have a snooze.
Yeah.
Try and do it when I'm talking though, not when Madhuvrata and Sarvesvari are.
Are you guys you're putting it live on Facebook, right?
Yeah, you're live on Facebook right now. All your chats is there.
That's the theory, anyhow.
That's sobered everybody up.
Yeah. Run and get my tilak.
Can I share?
Nandini, Haribo.
Hey, Naj is here.
Haribo, Nandini.
Haribo.
Haribo, Nandini.
Haribo.
Nandini.
Oh, so nice to see everyone.
Yeah, it feels like forever since I've seen everyone actually. Vishnu, you're alive then?
Yeah, we are live.
No, as in you're alive. I'm glad
I'm alive. I'm surprised you're alive as well.
Asked how I'm doing, considering.
Yeah. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Thanks for asking.
Not gonna lie,
Okay.
I knew you were alive. You've been
Okay, no family squabbles, okay?
Oh, sorry. Isn't this the place?
Okay, just okay. We've just gone live on Facebook, everyone.
I'm gonna be quiet now. I'm gonna mute myself.
So
is the record is the Zoom recording on?
Yeah.
Cool.
We've started.
All right, we'll start in about 2 minutes. I'll invoke.
Feels like we're going to get launched into space or something. I feel like I'm kind of sitting on the launch pad and you're doing all your checks.
You know what's really funny is when Yashashwini's on in a reading group, she suddenly just goes off in a puff of smoke. It's like Bewitched, the 60s comedy, and then she comes back again. It's hilarious. She makes me feel like Elon Musk.
Yes. You lost me.
In technology, like.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, now I get it. All right.
Yeah, so if Tarun thinks I'm bad at technology, I'll hand him over to Yashashwini, and then you got a whole nother paradigm.
Oh my God, Ramananda's on.
Ramananda, yeah, he came in first actually, and then disappeared.
Ram, are you here?
Ramananda.
Where is he?
Haribo.
Haribo, Prabhu. Haribo. Sorry, this is for young people only, Ramananda.
What?
Haribo.
For young people.
Sorry, I had to walk away, otherwise you'd hear the TV.
Haribo, Ram.
Haribo.
Haribol.
Tarun,
Yes.
you're gonna make Yash host again.
Wait, oh yeah, make sure it's more. Make
A co-host, not host,
your co-host now.
because then there's backup in case the internet goes down.
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay.
Oh, Tarun, I'm just calling you on the mobile. Can you pick it up?
Yeah, sure. You're calling my mobile. Oh yeah, I'll call you back. Didn't go through. Call again. Okay.
What did they say? Everyone's wondering, eh? Oh, did it? Awesome. Cool. Charu, fantastic. Okay, we're going to invite. Everyone ready?
Yes.
Take it away.
Tvanchakapa Trubis Cha, Kripa Sindhueva Cha, Patitanam Pavenabhyo, Vaishnavabhyo, Namanamaha. Om Gyan Tiramandasya, Gyanjana Salakaya, Chakshurmilitam Yena, Tashmai Shiguru Namaha. Trinadapi Sunichina, Tarorapi Saishnuna, Amanina Manadena, Kirtine Sadari, Anya Blasta Sunyam, Gyan Kamriana Vritam, Anukalenya Krishnu Shilanam, Bhakti Uttamam. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadata Shivasadi, Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna,
No, it's not muted.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
And now your shoulders.
Oh, was I on mute for the whole of that?
No, just halfway through Maha Mantra.
Okay. Hare Krishna, dear God brothers and God sisters, devotees, new members of our family, everybody, thank you so much for joining us on this our second program. It's a fortnightly program called Holistic Bhakti. And I wanted, for those of you maybe just to recontextualize what we're doing and to also introduce it to devotees who haven't been on here yet. And also for new devotees, I want to tell a little story, which I think will give a nice grounding to what we're doing today. So forgive me, I'll be talking in a way where for those who are completely new to Bhakti, it will hopefully be understandable to everybody, not only the more experienced devotees. So there's a beautiful guru who disappeared from our planet a couple of years ago, called, well, maybe 3 years ago, called Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj. And he was the most beautiful, very grave and very proper personality, very deep personality, a fully realized soul. And he was a qualified engineer. So he did a lot of construction for various missions. And his guru was an exceptional person called Srila Bhakti Daita Madhav Goswami Maharaj. and he constructed for his guru a Pushpanjali Samadhi. Basically, for those who are new to Bhakti, it's like a place of a very sacred way to remember the passing of his guru. And he was building this Samadhi, very special place, and it was almost ready for the opening. And the other devotee said, please, please take the scaffolding down, because there's scaffolding up. We cannot have a presentation to everyone with the scaffolding. And Srila Bharati Maharaj said, no, no, I cannot take the scaffolding down, because otherwise the building, it won't fall down immediately, but it will fall down later. So we cannot do this. This is a short-term way of dealing with things. We'll just have to make do. And he used to tell this story within the context of devotional life. And he used to say that for the devotee, Varnashram Dharma, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a simple way in a moment, the Varnashram Dharma is the foundation to one-pointed bhakti. So Varnashram Dharma, for those who are not devotees, is, let's say, a system whereby we can do our daily duties in a manner that is very proper and very moral and supports our devotional love of God, which is what bhakti is all about. Bhakti is all about developing intense fire and greed of love for the Lord in a very personal way. But we all come from a different background. Some of us come very young, some of us come in young age, middle age, and we still have to live in the world. So there are some devotees who get to a point where all they're doing 100% is they're preaching and teaching bhakti, and they're totally dependent on the Lord, and they're like living priests and traveling around, and they're supported by the community, and they are doing this one-pointed bhakti. But many of us, we're husbands and wives, brothers, sisters, mothers, sons, etc. How do we, the Varnashram Dharma, without going into a lot of detail, is all about how to do your duty. How can we be in relationship with each other? How can we be in family life? How can we work? How can we get the balance right? How can we deal with our fears? How do we deal with many subject matters? And how do we integrate that with love of God? This is what holistic bhakti is all about. How do we keep that scaffolding in place really nicely so everything can be held up really beautifully, so we can have a good, solid life in a practical way, and at the same time progress in our bhakti. This is what holistic bhakti is all about. And today I'm very excited because we have a beautiful couple. We have a panel of senior experts. And the idea is that we want to share the experiences. The senior members of our community want to share their experiences with the younger members of our community, so we can have some knowledge and experience transfer. You know, it's not about whether you fall off the horse, it's about whether you can get back on the horse. And as older people, many of us has fallen off the horse many times. And if we fall off the horse, you know, 50 times, we'd like you to maybe fall off the horse half as many times, maybe, and always get back on the horse in pursuit of bhakti. So the format of today, and I'll introduce our speakers in a moment. The format of today is the following. We're gonna, the subject matter is change and transformation. How to deal with change and transformation in your life, and both that is internal and external change. And we have a panel present of experts, and this will be presented by a short talk will be presented by Shriman Madhuvrata Prabhu and Srimati Sarvesvari Didi, whose credentials I'll talk about in one moment. And then after that talk, there'll be a chance for you to ask questions. And they need to be questions that are relevant to the topic. So something to do with change and transformation, something that relates to what they've spoken about or around the subject matter. And during the question and answer session, my co-team members, that is Tarun Prabhu and Vishnu Priya Didi, they will be fielding, they'll wave at you. Yeah, wave Tarun, yeah. They will be fielding, they'll be managing the whole process of the Q&A between you and the speakers, and also you and the panelists, because we have Shriman Budara Prabhu on our panel. I think we have Shriman Raghava Prabhu from the United States. He's here, and hopefully at some point we may have Shripad Bhaktivedanta Bhagwat Maharaj from the United States as well on our panel. So I want to get to the heart of the issue as quickly as possible now and hand over to our speakers. Sriman Madhuvrata Prabhu, he came to Gurudev, as he said, very much like me. He didn't go through ISKCON or anything else. He came, as in his own words, as ignorant as you can be of bhakti, like I did, to Srila Gurudev, like a baby deer, ready to be transformed in the year 2000. And he had the amazing good fortune to travel he took initiation in 2001, and in 2006 he started traveling with Gurudev and was his master chef. So if you're ever in Brighton and you need a good, as we would say, good nosh up, he's your man to go to. And he used to cook on Gurudev's tour, and he's a very, very, very beautiful, sweet, and very considerate devotee. And he's married to Srimati Sarvesvari Didi, who is a consummate brilliant interior designer with bags of experience in the secular world of designing all sorts of things, from her own beautiful home to retail shops around the world. Has great experience and also has a lot of experience dealing with people. And I'm very excited to now hand over to them for their presentation, and then Tarun and Vishnupriya will take over.
Do we want to, before the presentation, do we want to very quickly explain how to submit questions?
Yeah, you do that, Tarun.
Okay, so basically, we've changed the format slightly from last session. All the questions are going to be submitted via the link that's provided in the chat, which I'm about to put in there. And if you want to submit your question anonymously, just submit your question. If you want your name to be there, put your name. And if you want to also read out your question, which you're more than welcome to do, put your name, specify that you want to read out your question and leave your name. And if you have any questions or queries about how to ask the questions or what's appropriate, like, feel free to just send a direct message to Vishnupriya or myself, and we'll get back to you just through this chat, through the Zoom chat.
Great. One last thing, we also have a surprise guest panelist. That's Sriman Brajanath Prabhu. Welcome, Brajanath, who's zooming in from Germany. I think most people will have heard of Brajanath. He has served us all because it was by his Guru Nishta, his faith in Gurudev, that he actually brought our beloved Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj, all around the world from 1996 to 2010. He had huge amounts of association, did incredible amounts of service under enormous pressure and intensity all around the world, bringing us our Srila Gurudev. And Brajanath, feel free also to join the panel and contribute to any answers if you wish to contribute. And welcome, thank you for coming. Hari Bol. Prabhu, Didi, over to you.
Hare Krishna. Namoram Vishnu Padaya Radhikai Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Iti Namine Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So before speaking, we offer our unlimited Dandavat Pranam in lotus feet of Guru Pad Padma, Niti Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Astotra Sadashi Srimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, and similarly in lotus feet of Niti Lila Pravishta Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharti Goswami Maharaj, also in lotus feet of Niti Lila Pravishta Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada, and to all of our Gaudiya Rupa Nuga Guru Varga of our Dandavat Pranam. So thank you very much for asking
A bit louder if you could, Prabhu.
A bit louder, sorry. So thank you very much for, is that okay? For inviting us to speak. It's a great honor, and I consider it to be like Guru Seva, because Gurudev always wanted us to go out there and speak his teachings, to teach others. I remember in particular one time I was on tour with Gurudev, as Yashodanandan Prabhu explained, and there was stuff going on in the Sangha, and there was a lot of kind of ups and downs and this and that. And I remember going to Gurudev and saying, please let me just be able to stay in the kitchen for this life and just cook for Krishna, cook for you. And so Gurudev thought for a second, and then Gurudev went, no, you must preach, you must speak. And then he said, you have to learn from repairing the shoe to speaking the Srimad Bhagavatam Saptaha. So Gurudev wanted myself and all his disciples and grand disciples, I'm sure, to become qualified in all areas of bhakti, from the very, very seemingly insignificant right up to speaking the highest thing that Srila Gurudev came to teach. So I know there's a lot of very exalted devotees online tonight, but I'm going to speak, and I've prepared to speak to possibly somebody who doesn't really know anything about bhakti philosophy. So I'm imagining that we were doing a lot of university programs. So I'm imagining that we're at the university and we're speaking to young, new people about this. So hopefully everybody will get something, and everybody can also contribute afterwards. So the topic for this week is change, how to deal with change. So change is it's a constant in life. Everything is always changing, and it can be one of the most difficult and challenging aspects, if you like, of existence. Everything is changing constantly around us at every moment. And even like we're receiving in the UK anyway, we're receiving updates every day from the government about what we can and can't do. Oh, now I can't go here, and now I can go there, and now I can only see one person. And so this change, it's continuously like, you can say, imposed upon us. And it's kind of like, as spiritual aspirants, how do we deal on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis with that change? So it's a vast, huge, infinite topic. So these are just some thoughts that came to me when, and Sarvesvari, Didi also, obviously, when we were asked to speak about this subject. So we're going to talk a little bit about what is the experience of change. So from the point of view of the observer or the living entity or the self, what is that experience of change? Why are we enjoying or suffering due to that change? This is some Vedic philosophy. Why are we experiencing change at all? Why are we in this situation where change is going on? And then hopefully offer some kind of practical solutions to that ever-changing situation that we all find ourselves in. Okay, did you want to say anything? Okay, so I'm going to speak mostly, and the Sarvesvari will interject. This is how we used to do it at the university. I was the mind and she was the heart. So first of all, what is the experience of change? So important to understand from the Vedic philosophical point of view. Just briefly, we want to go into what that experience of change is and why we are experiencing it. So this really, everything is coming from the Bhagavad Gita. We can understand all of these things. Bhagavad Gita is like the handbook for material existence. They should really, I heard someone say once, they should hand it to, as you are born, they should hand you this Bhagavad Gita as you leave the maternity room and say, there you go, there's your guide to life. I know when I first read the Bhagavad Gita, it felt to me like I already knew all of these things it's like I was remembering these things. So I just wanted to emphasize the importance of reading and studying the Bhagavad Gita, especially for those who are new to the process, but everybody, because Bhagavad Gita is ever fresh, and every time I look at it, then newer and newer things are coming out. So this Bhagavad Gita, it discusses five topics, right? So Ishvara, that is the supreme controller, God, Krishna, many names for that, for him. So Ishvara, the jiva, in other words, the individual living entity, that is you, I, and everyone within this world, every embodied being. The Bhagavad Gita also discusses time, which is what we're going to go into this evening, material nature, and also karma. So these five topics are given in great detail in the Bhagavad Gita. And this is like our foundation in Bhakti, Vedic philosophy, and it gives us that very strong platform for which to build our Bhakti upon. So if we come into Bhakti and we go straight to Ujjvala, Nilamani, and these type of things, then this is kind of like, it's like a wobbly building without a proper foundation. So this Bhagavad Gita gives us this very strong foundation. So it's explained in the Vedas that at the time of the creation of this material universe, you could say, the material universe is created in cycles, destroyed and then created again. But at the beginning, you can say, of the material universe, there was this thing called pradhan. So pradhan is like the unmanifest totality of material elements, a little bit like the clay or the building material of the whole material universe. So all of the individual material elements are existing within this. It's called pradhan. So then this pradhan in this beginning stage is glanced at by the Supreme Person, that is Vishnu, Krishna, and this agitates these material elements, and this is the element of time. So this glance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is agitates these material elements and then causes them to become what is known as a prakriti. So this prakriti is all the different manifestations within this material world. So this is just a little kind of bit of a background about the environment which we find ourselves in. So time is acting upon these elements, and therefore things within this material world, they are manifest, they are maintained for some time, they produce byproducts, they decay, and then those particular forms or bodies or whatever they are, they again sort of go back to material nature and other constantly this is going on within the material world. So this is the creation, maintenance, and destruction, which is governed by what is called three modes of material nature. That is sattva, the mode of goodness, rajas, the mode of passion, and ignorance, the mode of tamas, or tamasic energy. So under the influence of time, these three modes of nature are sort of moving this material world along in this way. So, oh, by the way, this material time, this concept that we have of past, present, and future, this is we perceive that within this material world, but then there is a place beyond this material world that is called the spiritual realm, and there this idea of past, present, and future time doesn't exist. It's only the eternal spiritual present, even though things are going on and things are changing in a spiritual way. But in the material realm, we are experiencing this material time and material change. So we're constantly in the past, thinking about the past or planning for the future, and very rarely are we trying to be, at least, in the present. So just in relation to what I've just mentioned, that it says in the Srimad Bhagavatam that eternal time is the primeval source of the interactions of the three modes of material nature. It is unchangeable and limitless, and it works as the instrument of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for his pastimes in the material creation. So this is the function of time. The Lord, he is performing some type of pastime within this material creation, which we'll get to a little bit later. It's his instrument in a way. So this time factor that we're experiencing, this is the Lord's instrument for this type of special pastime. And if anybody wants to look up that verse, it's Srimad Bhagavatam 3, 10, 11. If anybody has any questions while I'm speaking, by the way, just write them down so that you don't forget them afterwards, because we've all got a bit Kali Yuga brain, and we think of things and think, well, what's he going on about? And then by the time it comes to the questions, we've forgotten the questions. So just make a note, and then you can ask us afterwards. We love questions, by the way. We love challenging questions. That's all part of our practice. Is a lot of us, including Budara Prabhu and others, we've done book distribution on the streets, and that really hones your knowledge of this Bhakti Shastra, because you get the most, all kinds of insane questions. So we like questions, especially challenging ones. So this is the idea, anyway, the Vedic idea of material time. Did you want to say something? Yeah. Okay. So this time is governing like macrocosmic change and also microcosmic change. So macrocosmic, we can understand like the lifetime of Lord Brahma. Yashodanandan Prabhu is expert at the numbers behind these things. Maybe you can mention afterwards, but the lifetime of Lord Brahma down to the lifetime of something like a bird or a mayfly or a human being. So time is governing all of these different lifespans on this macrocosmic and microcosmic level. And therefore, this material energy is always in flux. It's always constantly changing like this, moment to moment. And therefore, we are presented all the time with change at every moment. Big change and small change. So the point being that we were speaking about, this was the instrument of Krishna for this material universe pastime. This is because we are dwelling within that place, basically. So we, as the living entities, we are living within this material atmosphere. We are known as, in Sanskrit, jiva or atma. So that is the individual, eternally separated self. Srila Prabhupada called spirit soul. So we, the spirit soul, are residing within this ever-changing material atmosphere, and therefore we are constantly presented with the changing material energy. But as explained in the Bhagavad Gita, then the living entity, we are actually a superior energy to this material, constantly changing material energy. The jiva is known to be in the same as Bhagavan. He is Sat, Chit, Ananda. So therefore he is Sat, which means eternal. He's Chit, which means he's full of knowledge, and Ananda, he's or she rather, is blissful. So the jiva is Sat, Chit, Ananda, and therefore, as explained in chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, then the jiva is actually not subject to any type of change. He, she is immutable, unchangeable, unborn, beyond time, and all of these things. So therefore, you've got this kind of dichotomy where the experiencer, i.e. me, is eternal, and we are looking to this material world to give us this eternal experience but it's not. It's giving us a constantly changing experience through time. So this is really just a little bit of background about our situation. And really nobody tells you this. You cannot, there's no department in the university, as far as I know anyway, that teaches this kind of thing. And it's a very fundamental aspect of life that, you know, why don't they tell us this? But fortunately, our Srila Prabhupada and Srila Gurudev and our acharyas, they have distributed and given this knowledge widely. How am I doing for time, by the way? I've probably finished already.
Everyone
So
left.
the next topic. How long have I got
There's
left?
There's even more. No. You've got as long as you need.
Okay. So due to our own nature of being eternal, then we kind of expect things not to change in a way. It's within our makeup, within our DNA as a jiva, that we look for forever things within everything. So we look for our forever home, we look for our forever partner, we almost expect things to be ongoing and eternal. And then, but this material experience, it always kind of disappoints, because we put our love into something. We put our love into our dog, but then unfortunately the dog gets ill and dies. Or we put our love into our country or our prime minister or our football team or whatever, almost expecting these things to kind of go on forever and be stable, but they never really are. They as we've all experienced, this change is constantly going on. So why are we really suffering and enjoying this material world at all, and especially this changing experience in time? That is because we've discussed a little bit about the jiva is one type of spiritual energy, and the material is another type of external material energy. So then why is the living entity suffering due to this? You could say, well, it's like oil and water, you know, they never really mix properly. And this is explained because we are identifying with this. I think Buddha Prabhu spoke a little bit about this last time, that it's our identification with this material world, thinking that this is my home, this is my body, these are my relatives. This identification of choosing to think that this is me or related to me, that causes this type of material suffering or material enjoyment, you could say. And the example is given of like a monkey. How do you catch a monkey? And I've actually seen this on a wildlife program since hearing this example. So how they catch monkeys, and I think they still catch monkeys like this, is you get a coconut, you make a hole in the coconut big enough for the monkey to put his hand in or her hand in, and then inside the coconut you put something like an apple or an orange or something that the monkey really wants. So then the monkey reaches into the coconut and he puts his hand around the apple, and then he tries to pull his hand out of the coconut, but he can't, but he won't let go of the apple. So there's some kind of amusing videos that I've seen of monkeys trying to become free from this coconut. So then the monkey's thinking, the coconut has got me, the coconut has got me, I've been trapped by the coconut. So this is kind of our position. This example is given, that even though the jiva within this material energy is not really subject to it, but by our identification with it, then we are thinking this material energy has got me. It's like a man who's got his arms around a tree and claiming that the tree has captured him. So we are experiencing this type of material change and material environment because really of our own choices and our own desires, basically. Therefore, we are suffering and enjoying within this material environment. And like Srila Prabhupada said, I remember one of the first things that really stuck out to me in one of Prabhupada's books was that we never really know what's going to happen, even in the next moment. A plane could land on the house like right now. It didn't, but it might happen right now. But so we never know. We are in this time frame without knowing what is going to happen at all. We have this type of ignorance, if you like. So therefore, change. This is our experience of change. And why then are we experiencing this material existence and this change? That is, like I said, due to the results of our own activities. So something that we have desired or done within this life and within past lives has caused us to have this material existence. This is called parabdha karma. So parabdha karma means manifest karma. So I am in this situation. I was born in Birmingham. I have these parents. I was born at this particular time. These things are going on. So this is all called our manifest karma. We also have unmanifest karma. This is called aparabdha karma. But this karma that we're experiencing right here and right now, and this change, and all of these things, like we're experiencing coronavirus and all of these different things, ultimately we have to think, well, something that we did somewhere along the line has caused us to be in a situation that we're experiencing this type of dramatic change within the world. And all generations have experienced this. Like my grandparents lived through World War II. And so every generation has their massive changes. Like this generation, there's a lot of talk about climate change, anxiety. In our generation, it was nuclear proliferation anxiety. So every generation has this anxiety due to change. But ultimately, we have to understand that one of the most important teachings of the Vedas is that this is all coming from our own, it's of our own making, if you like. So there's no point in blaming, oh, it's the government's fault, it's my wife's fault, it's my family's fault, it's, ultimately all of these things that we're experiencing, they come down to our own activities. So this is really the why we are experiencing this material time and this change. So this is all very philosophical, but this is the kind of groundwork for understanding our situation. Sorry, I'm not giving you any chance to speak.
That's okay. I'm thinking.
So what is the solution? So I broke this down into like two parts, but I think that there are many ways, and our esteemed guests after my talk will hopefully elaborate on the solution for this experience of change. Partly, I've just missed a thing here, but partly is the acceptance of the inevitability of change. This is what I was saying about these things are happening due to our own activities. So therefore, to accept that things are constantly changing, that is a step in the right direction. And as Srila Sridhar Maharaj always said, the environment is always actually favorable. So rather than fighting with change and fighting with the environment, I've got a nice quote from Srila Gurudev a little bit later on about that, so I won't get to that too fast. So anyway, the general bhakti solution, I've called this, or spiritual adaptogenics. This is the practice of bhakti itself. So because we are eternal spiritual entities, then our contact with those things that are of the same nature as us, that provides us with a constant. So you can imagine material life is kind of like, I had a nice picture, but I'm not sure how to share it. It's like a sine wave. So you've got this kind of material life, like Srila Gurudev called it, waves going up and down and up and down, and this constant material change. But the constant within that sine wave, that is our spiritual practice. And it's a little bit like people have like hobbies, you know, like people do jigsaws and people do embroidery and these types of things, to try to have some kind of constant while everything else is sort of going up and down. But we understand that our spiritual practice, being directly related to the self, the soul, is much more powerful than this. And so this obviously includes our sadhana, our practice of chanting, of hearing, just like we're doing now, of remembering this, what we've been discussing, that's situating that within our consciousness as a kind of reality, that constant reminder that really we're not this, we are this constant jiva. So to have that type of practice. So this focus on bhakti, this is our constant. And there's a very wonderful verse that Srila Gurudev always quoted from, I think it's from the prayers of Lord Brahma. Tattenu kampam susamikshamano bunjana evatma krita vipakam hridvagva pobir ridadan namaste jiveta yomukti pade sadaibak. So this is a wonderful verse that deals with material existence as a whole, but also, I think, in particular, to do with change and time. So I'm just going to read a little passage from Srila Gurudev. He says, try to hear this verse very carefully. If you want to do bhajan, that means your spiritual practice, you will have to remember this shloka of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Not the shloka, not the Sanskrit, but its meaning and its mood. Gurudev saying, without such remembrance, you will always be angry, and so many problems will come, and you will always be upset. You will not be able to do your bhajan, your spiritual practice. So the meaning of this verse, the English meaning that I've got here anyway, is that Lord Brahma is saying, one who seeks your compassion, he's addressing Krishna, and thus tolerates all kinds of adverse conditions due to the karma of his own past deeds, who engages always in your devotional service with his mind, body, and words, and who always offers obeisances unto you, is certainly a bona fide candidate for becoming your unalloyed devotee. So this means that whatever we have done in our many past incarnations and also within this life, we are receiving, like I was explaining, this prarabdha karma, this karma that is going up and down. So good and bad is always sort of happening to us, if you like, or happening around us. We are the observers of these good and bad situations. So Lord Brahma is saying that one who engages in your spiritual practice during this and simply tolerates, so these things are to be tolerated and accepted, then that person becomes a candidate for liberation from this situation, if you like. So Srila Gurudev always emphasized this verse. And Gurudev goes on to say about this verse, he says that we should consider that everything in this world, both good and bad, is coming by the mercy of Krishna. We should think, this is for those who have taken shelter of Krishna, obviously, and not indirectly, but directly for devotees. We should think that Krishna is arranging everything, good and bad, for my benefit, for my auspiciousness. So this is a wonderful outlook and attitude to have towards life, that whatever comes to me, then I will just have this steady practice of bhakti. And in this way, this is like the adaptogenic. An adaptogenic is like a sort of a powder or a herb that helps the physical body and the mind and everything adapt to different situations. I'm not sure if it's an Ayurvedic term or whether it's a modern term, but I know, for instance, like ashwagandha is considered to be an adaptogenic, because by regularly taking ashwagandha, then we're more easily, I can see somebody nodding there, she knows, we are more easily able to deal with change and with the everyday. So the second type of solution that we came up with was this individual, which is I would call the moment-to-moment solution. Because going back to the philosophy, we are living entities and we are part of what is called Krishna's marginal energy, or tatashta. So we are constantly, if you like, in this position of choice. Change happens to us, and then we have this position of choosing to go one way or choosing to go the other way. So this is almost like the fundamental or primeval cause of our material existence, is that we are choosing to enjoy separately from the spiritual, from Krishna, rather than choosing to serve Krishna. So this choice appears at moment to moment to moment. And therefore, our acharyas teach us that there are considerations that we can employ within this moment-to-moment decisions. There's actually Tridandi Maharaj, Sripad Tridandi Maharaj, who enlightened me of this, because I would, Tatashta Shakti is very inconceivable, and it's kind of like something out there in space where, you know, if anybody's read the Jayavadharma, it was a question that people would always ask Shri Gurudev, what about this Tatashta Shakti? And Gurudev would say, just do bhajan and you can understand it. But I remember Tridandi Maharaj saying to me that actually this marginal experience is going on moment to moment. We always have this choice of, shall I switch on the TV or shall I open the Bhagavatam? Shall I do some service for Gurudev on Gurudev's book, or should I, you know, do something for my own sense enjoyment? So this is continuously my position anyway. I'm not speaking for anybody else really. So
there's like a question that sort of relates to what you're saying, and it's
shall I
sort
just
of
finish and then?
Oh, sorry.
I've only got I'll just whiz through the last bit because I know I'm going over time here. So I've just written down a few things, and hopefully we can add to these things, these considerations in how we deal with change. So we can think, is this favorable for my spiritual progress? And does this nourish me spiritually? If that's what we're looking for, if we have a spiritual aspiration. We can also look at the examples of the what we call Mahajans, or great personalities, or Vaishnavas, or our own guru. What would they do in such a situation? A friend of ours has in their bathroom a book, and it's called "What Would Keith Richards Do?" So, and you can open it up, and you know it's the various situations in life. So we have to think not what would Keith Richards do, but what would Gurudev do in this situation. We can also think, if we have a spiritual guide or teacher, we can think, well, would they be pleased with my decision regarding this particular aspect of change? We can also consider that, are we just repeating old patterns that don't really serve us? Are we just simply reacting instinctively, or are we reacting in the light of knowledge? And this is our great fortune, that we have this wealth of spiritual knowledge, and that's what partly this group is about, I think, is to try to share this spiritual knowledge and people's individual perception of this. And like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, this is like a lamp that illuminates the darkness of material existence. So just finally, this came to me right at the end of just typing out my notes here, that there's this wonderful aphorism, which I'm sure everybody's seen in multiple versions on Facebook, coming up in those little colored squares. And it's a quote by Reinhold Niebuhr. Is that how you pronounce his name? I'm not sure. He said, it's called the Serenity Prayer, if anybody wants to Google it. And it says, God, give me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So this is, it's from a Christian tradition, but I think it perfectly sums up what we've been discussing tonight. And then also, Yeshwananda Prabhu wanted us to speak a little bit about how, but I'm not sure if there's time, you know. I'm not sure how far I've gone now. I don't even know.
We need to take questions.
Yes.
Yeah, well, let's go to questions then. So thank you very much, everybody.
Yes, thank you so much. We're getting all sorts of questions from subjects to do with Vishnu Priya's grinning because she knows how funny some of them are, from subjects from coronavirus to facial recognition technology.
Oh.
Yeah, all sorts of things. So if you guys feel inspired to submit your questions, get them in soon because we've got a lot coming. I wanted to start off with this question, which is more directly relevant to one thing that you were saying earlier, and I want to see what first you and Sarvesvari have to say about it, Madhu, and then maybe what some of the other panelists want to say. And it's a little bit of a technical question. If our perception of time as past, present, and future is material, how can we apply the perception of the eternal present, the spiritual perception of time, to an ever-changing material world?
How can we apply the concept of the eternal present?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's an amazing book called The Power of Now, which is a little different from our philosophy, but he talks about the present being a gift, you know, and this is, I mean, our goal really as devotees is not so much to just focus on the present, because that's more like a Buddhist philosophy where they constantly focus on the ingoing breath, the outgoing breath, and the now, to try to come out from the eternally changing environment. But ultimately, if we are within material existence, we are subject to time. Time is as powerful as Krishna himself. One way that just comes to mind just briefly is that, you know, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he set up the Gaudiya Math, this temple situation with accommodation, so that people could live within, almost like within spiritual time. So if anybody's lived in one of temples, ISKCON temples or anywhere, then everybody gets up at 4:30 for Mangalarti, and this is aligned with, you can say, with the Astakaliya Leela, it's called, with spiritual time. So then there's midday arti, which corresponds with Radha and Krishna, their Madhyan Leela. Then there's like evening arti, and so the time within the temple is almost like synchronized with eternal time inconceivably. So that's I may pass that over to anybody who wants.
Can I add something to that? It's a beautiful question, and actually goes very much to the heart of our Gurudev's teachings, which is that in Krishna consciousness, the beautiful thing about Radha and Krishna is, if you think about it, when you get to know someone, you get to know their name, you get to know their form. You know, like their name is, say, Lalita. She's a woman. What are her qualities? And then I'm talking about Lalita Budara's wife here. And then what are her past? What does she do in the day? What does she do during the day? What's her her hobbies, what's her profession, what are her duties. These are the 4 aspects of personality. So the distinguishing factor about devotional life and Krishna consciousness is that if you study Judaism, for example, or Islam, there are plenty of names for God and plenty of qualities of God. But there's no mention of form, and there's definitely no mention of pastimes. So in Krishna consciousness, we're replete with extraordinary amounts of information about the eternal present in the spiritual world, which actually does have a concept of past, present, and future in the spiritual world, but the past, present, and future take place in an eternal present. And our process as devotees is to absorb ourselves in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna and the spiritual world, because we get so much information about this transcendental movie. This transcendental movie is real. We're actually the ones in the movie. They're the ones in the reality. It's like someone said to me recently, we're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings right now having a human experience. We're trying to remember our spiritual experience. And the spiritual experience we're being asked to remember, which is the process of smaranam, is that we're remembering the pastimes of Radha and Krishna as communicated to us by our gurus and acharyas, who are actually people who are experiencing that all the time. So they're transmitting to us not just some kind of fiction, they're transmitting to us the eternal present, the transcendental reality as it is, into our hearts. And if we can absorb that in our hearts by listening to the Guru through the words of the Guru, or through the words of the Guru, whether spoken or written, or through his disciples, then those pastimes can swim in our heart, fill our hearts, and make our sojourn on this earthly planet so happy, and actually deal with all of this change, because we will have no problem, because we will be absorbed in that lila all the time while we're carrying out our duties. So that would be my answer to this question.
Also, what I wanted to say was that we have choices throughout our day, what we do with our time. And at the moment, because we probably have even more free time because we're not going to work and we're not constrained by so many things of commuting and this type of thing that I used to do. But how we use that time to make that connection and remember the spiritual world, because we are body, mind, and spirit. And it's our mind that often gets in the way. The mind is our greatest friend or our greatest enemy, because this speculates on the future and laments the past, is full of regret or full of anxiety or full of optimism. But the mind only knows what it has experienced. It doesn't know what's coming. And so our anxiety and our fears and all these things are a mind's projection. So we observe our mind, and one way to give ourselves time to observe our mind is through part of our practice is 3 times a day to make that connection, to chant our mantras, to focus on those mantras, and to make that connection with our mind of accepting these things that can help the mind to accept the changes that are always coming, and realizing that we are more than this mind that thinks it's in control of ourselves. So there is always that choice during the day to make that spiritual connection through our mantras. And I know many people don't do that. You know, they feel they don't have time, or there's something more important to do. But these practices of reconnecting throughout the day are given to us to help us, and to help us to grow, and to help us to clean our hearts. And as we clean our hearts, things happen. We become aware of things, and changes happen. And I think that to take notice of the practices that we're given, because they're there to help us. And they actually don't take that much time. They really don't. But if we do that with our full intention and focus, then we can be in that moment of connection. And just to remember that these practices are given to us with purpose and they have a result.
Very nice. Before we move to our next question, Badara or Brajanath, do you have anything that you want to add to what Madhu and Sarvesvari and Yashoda and Nandan have just said?
I have a simple question, but I'd like to hear what Brajanath Prabhu might have to say about it, or Sarvesvari or Madhu. When we experience change, almost always, I suppose, thanks to the mind and the senses, we associate it with some emotional experience, happy, sad, fear, anxiety, whatever it is. And I'm wondering if somebody could say something about the role of emotion in regard to achieving a transcendental state in response to change. I don't know if that's a clear question, but if that's understood, but that would be my question. And I'd really like to hear what Brajanath Prabhu has to say about it in general anyway.
Yeah, I'd like to pass that on to Brajanath Prabhu.
Maybe, Tarun Prabhu, can you reformulate the question, whether we have understood it properly?
Yeah, when we experience change, so if we lose a loved one, so we encounter grief. When we obtain something we desire, we feel momentary elation, and so these emotions are happening, as I understand it, on the plane of materiality that Madhu so very eloquently and sedantically, comprehensively explained. But is there a role for emotion in achieving transcendence and in rising above these moments, these changing moments of materiality? Is there a way for us to cultivate a different type of emotion in response to the change we experience in the material world? I hope it's not too complex, but of course I'm complex, so.
Yeah.
Like us all.
If you want, I can say a few things. Something.
Please. Yeah.
I think if I look at myself, it is very much depending upon where I identify my truth. In other words, if I mainly identify my truth in this world, I think I'm the body, I have so many important things to do in the world, then the emotions that are resulting from tragedy and happiness, they really hit me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And if I identify my truth or my priorities, connecting the soul with my spiritual existence, then it is very easy to experience the emotions of the ever-changing world, but not identify with it permanently. Just go through the motion, because emotions, we have to live it. You cannot deny them, but come back to my priority, my truth, my real purpose in life. And all these, whatever I'm sharing with you, I can speak from experience, because what I've learned in life is that we cannot deny this world. We also, after 40 years practicing bhakti yoga, I cannot deny that I'm a soul. Yeah, I also cannot deny that Gurudev and Krishna are real. Yeah, I also cannot deny that the relationship between spiritual persons, especially Harinam, Guru and Krishna, that is like life nourishing. That is the thing that it deserves the most respect, the most dedication, the most attention, the most commitment in my life. Whereas also the material, ever-changing world deserves my respect. I cannot disrespect it. I have to properly honor it. Why? Because this body is part of this whole changing thing, and relationships in this world are also always it comes right in my face. Yeah. So how to properly respect it, that is, I find the most beautiful challenge in life. Why is it beautiful? Because behind this material, what we call it, drama, yeah, the drama of material life, there is Krishna. He has, like Madhu Prabhu quoted Srila Gurudev Bhagavatam prayer, Tatenu Kampam Susamiksa Manu. Krishna has arranged it for me. It is actually, that is what I experience. As I continue to practice bhakti, it becomes a perception not of that I am fearing what is going to happen, but rather that I expect Krishna's mercy to manifest in the way that the material nature is constantly changing. And my beautiful opportunity is to learn to adjust ever so much as is necessary. Like Yasoda Prabhu is telling, 50 times we fall down and 51 times we get up. Yeah. Well, I think over 40 years, there's a lot more than 50 times. Yeah. And if I look at my present day, even it's not how whether I fall down, it's how quick I can get up. Yeah. That is really what I perceive. And connect again with the priorities, my mythic or my nitya, my nitya dharma and my namitic dharma. It is two different sections. Naimitic means what I have to perform, what is my responsibility, my duty in this world. And my Nitya Dharma is what is my responsibility and my very nature in the spiritual realm. So these two are going on all the time. And as much as I live and feel connected in a very beautiful way with my eternal nature, that much easier for me is that to connect this world also as a support for that, as a constant friendly reminder. Yeah, and that is then when Krishna's mercy, therefore it is said in Bhagavatam that the more we practice and we have the good fortune to have good association, this process of bhakti, the more we perceive that our environments become friendly, it becomes favorable, it becomes a, what is it, a beautiful opportunity to express my gratitude and my reciprocation with my Gurudev, with my well-wishers. Okay, that's it.
I just had one thing to add.
Yes, Prabhu.
That what just came to me while you were speaking, Prabhu, is that we can, everything that we experience or we have can be engaged in spiritual service. So even these emotions, like even anger can be engaged in the spiritual, and obviously love can, so we can redirect our abilities and our emotions towards the spiritual. So we can love Srila Gurudev, we can feel, all these different types of emotions. It's not that we're trying to become like yogis and have no reaction to anything. It's that these things are like our tools to use. And this is the beautiful thing about bhakti that I see, is that whatever we have, this is like the idea of dovetailing that Srila Prabhupada used to describe, that we can dovetail these things with our spiritual practice. So we don't have to become like inert or, you know, emotionless. These things are, you know, natural and
Yeah, it's
useful
not true.
practice.
Yeah. Yeah, if you block your emotions, you're gonna suffer a lot. Yeah.
Mm.
You can, that's my experience.
Tell me about it. I'm English.
Beautiful. Does anyone, Vidar, Prabhu, do you have anything to add before we go on to the next question?
Only that, you know, both responses are really illuminating and inspiring, and I think it's a challenge because, you know, we Nirvisesa Shunyavadi, you know, Prabhupada came to try to address the idea that we all have an impersonalist orientation, and so in that, as Madhu suggested, you know, in that impersonalist orientation, we have a negation type of mind, like, oh, you know, I'm feeling emotion, I'm feeling grief, or, you know, sadness or joy or whatever, and oh, I don't really want that. I want to just be in the present and kind of blank it all out, and that's really not what bhakti is about. And so I love the idea that, you know, as Brajanath so eloquently explained, that, you know, emotions are for us a pathway. Not well, emotions are important to live in this world as we experience it, but it's also a pathway for developing and deepening our bhakti.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, everyone who spoke. The next question is actually from Hare Krishna. I believe he's going to come on and actually ask the question himself. Hare Krishna, are you there?
Dandavat pranams.
Dandavat.
Am I here? Okay, cool. Okay, so the question is, it's purposefully kind of funny. The question is, how important is it to change our minds? Because the whole theme is about change. So I'm asking, like, how important is it to change our minds? Because, like, my mind is not, like, obviously it's not favorable. And I was talking with my therapist today about, like, how my mind it feels like an oppressive government, and I'm like a kind of oppressed citizen. And, like, because there's corruption within the government, sometimes I can get away with doing some, like, pretend bhajan, you know, or like a semblance of bhajan. But after some time, if I start, like, making too much noise, the government catches on, and they come around to my house and they thwack me over the head and they take all of my stuff. And it's like, I'm living under this sort of framework of my mind. And, you know, part of me has to kind of, like, you know, live alongside it. But then part of me wants to be like a revolutionary and, like, break out from within and, like, completely transform everything, which would mean changing my mind, because my mind is pretty set that, like, bhakti is poisonous. Or it's not completely, but there's an aspect of my mind that is definitely like bhakti is evil. So I think I've expressed most of what I want to express.
I had it explained to me once that the mind is this, going back to the mind, body, and spirit. The mind is the one that wants all our attention, and the mind is almost like the naughty child. So you have the body that is kind of doing what it's told a little bit, moving when it's told, all these things. And spirit is kind of, can be almost the forgotten child. But the mind is the naughty child. It's the child that demands all the attention and wants you to kind of pacify it the whole time, or give it your attention, or do what your mind tells it to you to do, because the mind is in control. I'm in control. I'm in the driving seat. My foot is flat down on the pedal. I'm in the driving seat.
It's like the chariot, isn't it?
And yes, it's like the chariot in the Bhagavatam. The mind and emotions are pulling the chariot. They're in charge. But through our spiritual practice, we have to gradually bring the mind along. We have to persuade the mind, because the mind will fight change, because mind likes what it knows. So the mind will put up resistance. But like the naughty child, you have to pay it attention, hold its hand, bring it along with you, and gradually, slowly persuade it by proving to the mind that this is worthwhile, this is helpful, because it will resist, resist, resist. You sit down to chant, it will resist the chanting, and you'll get up and wander around, do something else. It will constantly resist.
This is what I mean. Like, I haven't made up my mind.
I think
That
the key...
whether you want to change your mind.
Like, I haven't made up my mind that my Gurudev is a bona fide pure devotee. I haven't made up my mind that I want to become a gopi. I haven't made up, you know what I mean? I haven't made up my mind, but at the same time, I'm like burning in the material world and I'm completely bereft of shelter. So it's like...
But can the spiritual, because none of us, we all may have the goal to become a gopi, but none of us know if we are. None of us know if that is what we are, but we take shelter in Guru, and the practices that he has told us will help us understand our true purpose and our true destination. But that's the journey. So you're not anywhere near the end of your journey yet. You're at the beginning of it. And so explore it like any journey. We explore the journey. We try different things.
And also the intelligence is above the mind. So the mind may say, go over there and punch that guy in the face. But the intelligence says, oh no, hang on. If you do that, then that guy might punch you back or you might go to prison. So the intelligence, and it's the intelligence that is receiving the knowledge, if you like, from Guru and from Shastra, that is in the beginning sort of speaking with the mind. It's like Srila Raghunath Das Goswami in his Manashiksha. He humbly petitions the mind, like Srila Gurudev made us learn Manashiksha like twice, right? Brajanath Prabhu, completely, and recite it to him. Because in that, Raghunath Das Goswami is saying, oh, my dear mind, I humbly petition you with sweet words. Please do this that's favorable for me, the tiny jiva. So anyway, that's my...
Just to add on, I've got a little question myself. You were speaking about the naughty kid and, just taking that naughty kid by the hand and like taking it along with you. But oftentimes I find within myself that I'm sort of there, like following the naughty child, the naughty child's telling me, let's go do this, this, and this. And I'm there like, hell yeah, let's go. And I often find myself, and it's like, I know that I should be, indoors, probably chanting, doing something that's progressive for me, something that's good for me. But instead, I'm just fully, convinced that I should be going out with my friends or doing X, Y, Z that the mind wants me to do. So how would any you guys deal with that?
Well, I think we've all been in that position.
Still are.
And still are. Still, oh, I'll do this instead. And I was fortunate in my upbringing. I grew up in a house where my father was really interested in Buddhist philosophy, and my mum was a spiritualist. And so I grew up in this atmosphere of understanding that what we do has consequences. And what I learned, but it took time, but what I learned from my dad in particular was considered thought. So considered thought, considered action, considered speech, and considered hearing. So hearing, that's a choice. Do I listen to this or do I listen to that? Speech is quite easy. Should I be quiet? Should I speak? considered action. Should I take that action? Shouldn't I take this action? But considered thought, I could manage the three, but considered thought is out of control. You know, it's always kind of, how can I control what I'm thinking? It's just there, it's coming. I can't stop it. But thought is always leads to an action. You're going to do something coming from that thought. And so then to go back into this considered action, will that benefit me or not? And that's using my intelligence, but it's also using my experience, because I do this, I do it once, and you know, it doesn't work out. I do it again. Oh, I've done it again. It doesn't work out. But slowly, actually that doesn't work. So my intelligence is telling me, don't do that again. But this is growth, isn't it? This is growing, getting wiser, having experiences, these experiences teaching us that this works or this doesn't for me. And we're all individual, and what works for one person may not work for another, because we are completely individual in every way, not only in our upbringing and how we grow in this life, but our karma, our samskars is all completely individual to us. And so we're learning, and we learn by our mistakes as well. But to just remember that at all times we have a choice, and to make a considered choice rather than a rash choice. So just stop and think.
And really, I think the only experience I've ever had of the mind being somewhat pacified was in association of Mahabhagavat. So if you should always have this desire to be able to, you know, I mean, we can associate with Srila Gurudev. Now he is left, but to be in his direct spiritual, physical presence, I think that was the only time my mind was ever somewhat under control. So association, this whole process works really by association. To try and do it on our own, possible, but yeah, very difficult, I would say.
And another thing, I'll tell you a sort of secret thing, but about 5 years ago, we were invited to go to ISKCON, and we were all, don't know, you know, because they sent letters telling people to never come there like 10 years ago. And there was this in Brighton, you know, ISKCON and Gurudev's disciples completely separate. And we were invited to go. And we thought, well, what do we do? Do we go? Don't we go? I had no idea whether to go or not. And that night I had a dream of Gurudev, and he came to me and said in the dream, always represent me nicely and all will be well. So we said, okay, we'll go. And we will represent Gurudev nicely. We will show them in this ISKCON group that have all kinds of opinions about us, about Gurudev, but we will show them that we represent Gurudev nicely. And that instruction just takes me through everything. I always think, is this representing Gurudev nicely? How other people look at me, my behavior, my attitude. Am I representing Gurudev nicely? And if I can say, yes, I am, then I'll carry on with that, whatever choice. And if I think no, then it's enough to stop me.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much. I think Yashoda wanted to add something. Yashoda Nandan?
Yeah, thanks, Sarvesvari. Beautiful.
That's really beautiful.
When we want to drive a car, we take a driving test. I remember when I passed my driving test, the instructor passed me, but he said, I think you should buy a Volvo, which I think was a nice way of saying you're not a great driver, but you just made the grade. Yet, however, our soul, which is traveling on our subtle body, we don't have any driving test for driving our subtle body, which drives our external body. So thankfully, at some point in our life, we come across this teaching, which explains to us what is the vehicle in which we're operating. So working backwards, for those who are not devotees, you've got your soul, which is traveling on the life airs of the subtle body. The subtle body is your internal body, as opposed to your external physical body. It's your mind. It's your, what we call the false ego. It's your intelligence. The point is to answer the question that both, is Hare Krishna Das still there? And Vishnu Priya asked. We need to understand just like we need to understand the gear stick, and hi buddy. We need to understand the gear stick, the pedals, we need to understand how it all works. We need to understand the mechanics of our subtle body. So I won't go through all the mechanics, we haven't got time here. But the mind essentially is the thinking, feeling, willing function. That's how it's described. We think, we feel, and we will. And it's like a kite on the beach. It's flipping and flitting all over the place. And all results, they all come from actions. And all actions come from thoughts. And where do thoughts come from the mind? What is the mind dependent upon? The quality of our consciousness. So what is our consciousness and how can we improve our consciousness? It's like, if you imagine us like a sponge, the mind is like a sponge. It's like the sponge is in the water, the lake of our consciousness. So depending upon the quality of the consciousness, our mind is easier or more difficult to control. So Hare Krishna Das's mind, just like my mind will be all over the place if my consciousness has not been managed well. But if my consciousness is in good shape, my mind will be easy to control. And in Bhakti Yoga, there are many, many things. There's a whole list of things we can do to stop doing in order to improve our consciousness, and things we can replace that with positive things so we can improve our quality of consciousness. But the key thing is this, guys, and the list can be, we can publish the list later. I mean, there's an endless list, is we shouldn't try to transform our consciousness too quickly. It's like change a habit every week or change a habit every 2 weeks. And always, someone who was talking about lollipops on the chat, always give your mind the right amount of lollipop to keep it happy. The kid, like Sarvesvari was saying, always has to have a nice laddu, a nice sweetie, but not too much, just to keep it pacified, while the intelligence is driving forward, saying, okay, Mr. or Mrs. Mind or Miss Mind, we're going forward. I understand your protestations. Here's a little sweetie to keep you happy, but we're going to give this up and we're going to do this and improve our consciousness gradually. And I bet you, if you enter a program of improving your consciousness by giving up certain things and adding certain things to your life on a daily basis, but not too quickly, within no time, in 3 months, that mind will be beautifully under control and you'll be going on your way to Goloka Vrindavan.
Jay, thank you so much. That was really beautiful. I think
Shashvani, can I say a quick something?
Of course you can, yes.
Okay, I can't put my photo on now. Okay, I just wanted to say that we're having trouble with the mind, but then we have to think, well, what is the mind? But the mind travels every time we reincarnate into a new body, the mind comes with us. So the mind actually is simply a box of memories. It's a box of impressions. And those impressions are reminding us of things we liked or things we didn't like. And in this life also, we try things, we like some things, or the mind says that. The mind says we don't like something else. So we have all these impressions, and how do we change even the material impressions when we hear someone or something enough and we think, oh, actually, yeah, we become attracted, let me try that. And then our impressions has changed. We see that as we go from young people to teenagers to a little older. Our impressions are constantly changing by hearing different things about the material world and the material energies and even the material enjoyments. So in the same way, the only way we can change our impressions to become more spiritual is by hearing about those spiritual world, these spiritual activities, the things that can happen as we progress on our path. And so it's very important that on a daily basis, or even every couple of days, that we actually read the teachings of our gurus and the sadhus, and that we discuss with our friends and really just try to even read one verse and one purport every couple of days, but discuss with your friends, and then things that are not understood, you go and you ask someone. In this way, we're constantly beginning to put something in. Like Yashoda was saying, we don't need to do it to the amount that will put us off if we're not ready for that. But if we just start to put a little in, it's gradually adding different impressions. And in that way, gradually, those impressions become stronger, and the strongest impression is what starts to motivate you. So that, and also doing service, the more service we can do for sadhus or towards the mission or anything like that, that also really engages us, and we get a reciprocation from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or from the Lord, from the Guru, for doing seva. So in those two ways, I think it can really help to change the mind, as Hare Krishna was asking. Okay, Haribol.
Thank you so much, Yashashwini.
Did Brajanath Prabhu have
Brajanath
something?
Prabhu had something to add, yeah, and then Badara Prabhu after as well.
Yeah, I hope I'm not sounding too alarming, but I've realized that it's not about controlling the mind. Yeah. That's a hopeless task. It's impossible. The mind is filled up with unlimited desires, and they keep on coming one after the other. Yeah. If I start worrying about how to control my mind, I'm going to be super frustrated the rest of my life. Yeah. Even Arjuna couldn't do it. Even great yogis cannot do it. Bhakti yoga is not about controlling the mind. Bhakti yoga is really why I'm not falling in love with Gurudev, why I'm not falling in love with Krishna, with Harinam. Yeah. If there is love, then the mind, you can check your heart. Yeah. Have you ever fallen in love with someone? Hare Krishna Prabhu? Have you?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
You're not sure. Well, try
I've been like deeply infatuated and like obsessed with someone.
Okay, so what happens 24 hours a day you think about that person? Yeah.
Can be.
Could be, yeah. So manmana bhava mad bhakta. Krishna is telling to Arjuna. Arjuna says, I have no time to think about you. I have to fight a war. Yeah, I cannot control my mind. Yeah. So then Krishna is telling, then you just simply come one-pointed, focus completely upon my order. Yeah. So these are the duties or the responsibilities, I would say the opportunities that are gifted to us. We have heard from Yashaswini, from Yasodanandan, from Sarvesvari, Madhu Prabhu, and Bhagavad Gita is telling the very same thing. Krishna is telling to Arjuna, just focus your mind on my order. Yeah. Oh, Arjuna said, that I can do. Yeah, you want me to fight? I fully identify that this is your desire and that is why I fight, and the result is not up to me. It is already decided by you. Now the better way is, and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that in Jaiva Dharma, when the question comes up, when the mind will be controlled, even if we receive all the information about the spiritual world, how happy they are there, yeah, and how much they love each other, and they are in a constant festival of rasa, still our mind cannot be composed until and unless we fall in love with Krishna. Yeah, we fall in love with that area which is our natural, yeah, spontaneous relationship with Sri Krishna. So I would advise you, don't worry, yeah, let your mind be what it is, but cultivate a mood of prayer, yeah, and complete dependence upon mercy. mercy from that area where that love is available. Yeah, these beautiful souls have come for this purpose. Srila Prabhupada and all our acharyas, the Vedas, they all give us this beautiful gift. Yeah. Develop your loving relationship with me, Krishna is telling, with Harinam. Yeah. Start to contemplate how I can fall in love, yeah, with that which belongs to my soul. And let the mind tolerate it. Yeah, let it do. It will not stop bothering you anyway until you reach perfection. It's going to be on your case all the time. Even one time, one devotee came to Srila Gurudev and he said, Gurudev, he came for the first time and he said, I have controlled anger. Yeah. Then Gurudev said, wow, yeah. My respects to you. He said, I cannot control my anger, he says. Yeah. And sure enough, the devotee went out of the room. He went to his own apartment and he saw someone he had ordered to iron his clothes and he had burned his clothes. And he became so angry with that person. Yeah. And then he realized, oh, I should not brag in front of, elevated souls about my accomplishments, that I have controlled this, I have controlled my mind. The only thing we want is become mad after, Krishna, after Harinam. That is our, and then the mind will automatically be directed towards that area. Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj, he asked the questions. When can we think about Krishna 24 hours a day? Yeah. Only when we are completely in love with him. Yeah, that is the only way that it will happen. So to cultivate the prayer that, oh, may I receive your blessings, your mercy, that really my love and affection should only go towards you. Oh, Gurudev, I want to fall in love. I want to have the mood that you have in your heart. This is our prayer. And the mind, it will come and it will harass. And sometimes you can imagine when the full moon is there. I know even sannyasis, they go completely nuts. Yeah. When the full moon comes. Yeah. Because the constellations are so crazy. I think Balabhadra, you can attest to that. Yeah. Sometimes you go completely out of your mind. Yeah. Because of the circumstances. So just get over with it, but fix our goal. That is my personal experience. Yeah, if I fix my goal, then I have no difficulty. Even if my mind is troubling me, I just don't take it serious. I'm not the mind. Yeah, why I should take it serious? Okay, sorry for taking the time. Yeah, Yasoda, you wanna stop?
No, thank you so much, Prabhu. It's honestly a blessing to be able to hear from you. I think, Vidara, Prabhu, you wanted to add something as well?
Yeah, just a couple of brief comments, which are echoing very much Brajanath's really lovely explanation. I think we all have the experience that, everyone's done the experiment.
Speak up a little bit, Budar.
Sorry?
A bit louder, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just have a couple of comments that really can just echo the eloquence of Brajanath Prabhu. And that is that what comes to my mind, and I think we all have the experience of trying the experiment. Someone tells you, do not think about a pink elephant. And as soon as you tell the mind not to think about a pink elephant, the mind can't think of anything else but a pink elephant. So the mind is obstinate and it's stubborn by nature. But as devotees, unlike the mystic yogis, unlike the impersonalists and other practitioners, we have something very, very special, which is that we have a wonderful cultural aesthetic, which is, you could say, embodied in that very special name, Krishna, which means the all attractive, the most beautiful, And in a way, bhakti is really about bypassing the mind by seducing the mind with beauty. So as Brajanath Prabhu said, we just look away from the mind and we just try to give our attention to that which is really beautiful and attractive. And in my thinking, if we can do that, then we'll be more successful at not letting the mind derail us or cause us too much trouble on a daily basis.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for all the comments. That was really, really beautiful for that question. Tarun, over to you.
Now it's the point in the evening where we have to work out whether we have time for one very, very quick question. Do we have time? Okay. So we have actually like quite a deep question that I know each of our speakers could probably very easily spend half an hour each answering, but I want everyone all of the speakers, if possible, to answer in just like 1 or 2 lines, just to summarize an answer. And the question is that through all our lives, we encounter massive changes, spectacular changes, and these can adversely affect us in all sorts of ways, but especially here we're focusing on spiritual life. We're focusing on spiritual life, and in this class, sorry. And basically how in spite of change can we continue to nourish our spiritual life in spite of like big changes like we're experiencing right now? How can we advance? How can we progress? Do you want to start off, Sarvesvari? Or wait, Brajanath raised his hand, so.
Yeah, 2 lines. Actually, 1 line, Kleshakni Subhada. These 2 symptoms will manifest by performing sadhana bhakti. Klesha means all the problems in the world, whether it is famine, pandemics, earthquakes, or mental, whatever, attacks, or people who harass you, they will all very quickly disappear by embracing the process of sadhana bhakti. These are my 2 lines. Yeah.
Wonderful. Who's next?
Say what came to my mind when you were speaking that question is this verse by Srila Rupa Goswami where he says, Trinadapi sunichena taradapi hisnanada. Try to become more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, give all respect to all others, and don't expect any respect back for yourself. And in this way, you can chant the holy name, you can do your spiritual practice. That's something that I remember sometimes when I'm in the midst of something, and I find it very soothing.
And I was going to say, as a tool, discipline. We are disciples. And so to discipline ourselves in some way to practice our sadhana. So create discipline of using time to say, well, I will read, I will chant my mantras, I will join this Zoom class at this time, and create some discipline in your day that enables these things. And the more you do these things, the more they come into the heart and the more you want to do these things. But at the start, just create some discipline as a tool to enable you to set aside time in the day to be a disciple, to practice.
Discipline, to be a disciple. That's really nice as well. Okay, Badara.
Yeah, 2 lines. What sustains me constantly is my hope of rendering some meaningful service to Guru and the Vaishnavas.
Shoda?
Do not try to manage change. Do not try to resist change. Embrace change as your friend and connect with our gurus and our acharyas and pray for grace. Because when grace descends into our heart, and we don't have to be worthy for it, just open your heart for grace. Grace will always turn change to your advantage to purify you in bhakti.
A lot of very nice answers.
They were all so powerful. Just those two liners just hit me like.
We should do that. We should do that more often.
Yeah, the whole thing could be 2-liners. That'd be pretty awesome.
Amazing.
That was an awesome holistic bhakti. I want to thank Madhuvrata and Sarvesvari for leading so beautifully and choreographing it so beautifully as well. They're just aesthetically beautiful as well as intellectually and heartfelt as well. So you got it all going on there. Really appreciated your opening presentation. Thank you so much. And our panel with Budara Prabhu and Brajanath Prabhu, Yashashvini jumping in there, coming in, that was so beautiful. And who have I left out there?
All the guests.
Sorry?
All the guests.
Didi.
It was very, very beautiful. Did I mention Brajanath? Thank you so much for your contribution. Really beautiful. Always bringing in the essence, the principle. And the questions also, which are essential. They say with disciples, the role of a disciple is to ask great questions. And the French got one thing right when they said it's not the answer that's difficult, it's the question. So the questions were fantastic. So thank you for that. And thank you for everybody's Shravan, their attendance. I often say on these Zoom conferences, it doesn't look like very much to turn up for a Zoom conference, but actually it's so helpful because your 2 ears, your Shravan, even if you haven't said anything, is enabling everybody else to engage in beautiful seva for Srila Gurudev. So it's kind of like we're all flowers on one garland. And by coming together, we're all threaded together in honor of him. And that brings us closer to each other and to him and to Parampara. And that keeps the whole beautiful energy of bhakti continuing. So thank you so much, everybody. In 2 weeks' time, Wednesday, what would that make it? Wednesday, the 13th of January, am I right?
Yeah, I think it's the 13th.
Well, 2 Wednesdays' time, we will have my beautiful god brother there, who's been very quiet today, Sriman Raghava Prabhu, and we may have his wife as well, Srimati Banu Didi, which I hope very much, but he can do it on his own as well. He's fantastic, or together even better. And they'll be talking about relationships, which I think all of us sometimes struggle with at times. So very excited to hear that. That will be at the same time. They are zooming in from the East Coast of America. It'll be the same time in 2 weeks' time. So I want to thank our team, Vishnupriya and Tarun, who have put in a lot of fantastic work. They're beautiful to serve with. I feel honored to serve with both of them. And Hari Krishna Das as well, who has been instrumental in some of the ideas for our for holistic bhakti. And thank you very much. And please unmute yourselves and let the chaos ensue.
Can I just say one last
thing? Oh, wait. Yeah, no chaos just yet.
Can I just say one last thing? I just wanted to say, for anyone who missed our session, the previous session that we did, we've actually got up a new YouTube page. So you can access all of the sessions that we're going to have via the YouTube page. I'm just going to link it on the chat as well, so you guys can take a look. But I think Yashashvini Didi wanted to say something before the chaos.
I did actually. I just wanted to say that it seemed tonight from what Tarun said that there were a lot of questions came. And I'm just wondering that if there's any way that somehow those people who ask questions, if their questions could be heard and answered in some way. I don't have any answers. It just crossed my mind that I remember last time there were also more questions that didn't get answered. And I just wondered if there was some way of doing that.
Tarun, let's export the chat to ourselves so we can at least we have a record of it so that we can try and address that. Thanks, Shashwat.
Let the chaos begin.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Madhuvrata, where is that translation from?
Oh yes, there's a lecture that's entitled "How to Become Free from Anger and Resentment" by Gurudev. And I don't have the exact reference here, but that's the title of it. I think if you Google that or search that, "How to Be Free from Anger and Resentment," it's a really amazing lecture that Gurudev gave in France, I think. So yeah, thank you to everyone for listening to us. It's for our own purification as much as anything else. Hare Krishna.
And the recording's going to go up tonight.
Yeah, Balabhadra, I posted the link in the chat.
Oh, you found it before me. Okay.
Actually, I have it as a constant reminder on my laptop. Yeah.
It is that one, isn't it, Prabhu? Yes, I think.
This one. Yeah. Oh. This one. Perfect. Yeah. I just want to say that translation is so beautiful. They're all beautiful, but that one is especially heart-touching because the word compassion jumps out. Oh, and everyone knows this is Kunja Kirtan. This is how I control my mind now. And by the way, look, here's Rupa Manjari right here behind Radhika. And she's looking out of the... Anyway, that's how I see it. She's looking out of the painting. It's so beautiful. Oh, it's astonishing.
Beautiful. Jai.
Everybody's so quiet.
Yeah, I think everyone's overwhelmed by all of like the Hari Katha, all of the beautiful answers that everyone heard. There's a lot to take in, a lot to process. But yeah, it was really wonderful session.
Because Balabhadra Prabhu mentioned compassion, and when we were talking earlier, that kept coming through my mind that the more you associate and the more you have the perfect example of our acharyas and gurus and their example of how they make choices and decisions. I always read My Beloved Masters, the book by Srila Bharati Maharaj about Prabhupada's disciples, and that example of how they lived their lives. And as you read more and practice more and associate more, and as these things unfold very naturally, you find that the heart opens more and that you feel more loving and the compassion comes, but also to be compassionate with yourself, not to beat yourself up all the time if you're not doing enough, or if you make a mistake, or if you do something wrong. And that compassion grows as part of the process of bhakti. And to be compassionate with yourself as well.
Well,
Well, Madhuvrata, only in England would we get such a lot of silence, right?
Can I just mention one thing? Kamala from Canada here. I really
You're
like.
saving us, Kamala. Thank you.
I just wanted to just thank everyone. And one thing that really stood out for me, and something that I realized too, is that in order to really realize the importance of taking time out of our, our everyone's busy schedule to read and to meditate and to really follow our bhakti path, is I think we also really need to look at what we value, for example, from a millennial point of view, like 15 minutes of scrolling on social media is like me time, like that time is really important. But then, maybe it's like that exact 15 minutes, to chant, your rounds or something. Your mind can be like, well, that's not enough time, that no time to chant my rounds. So I guess just like examining myself and looking at what I value in my day-to-day life, and then seeing how I can shift my mindset and welcome change to something more beneficial for me spiritually. I guess, yeah, just changing the mind to, value the higher purpose a lot more than mundane day-to-day things. Just having that mindset, and yeah, looking deep within myself at what I value. So I just thought to share that.
Good point.
Nice.
Can I share something about emotions? I didn't want to speak while the panel was speaking because I just wanted to express later that any emotion we experience in this world is a perverted reflection of our pain of separation from God, from Radha Krishna, from Guru, from Gauranga. So the way I, not very well, but I try to deal with my emotions, which are very explosive because I'm bipolar. I can imagine the normal range of emotions is like this, and bipolar is kind of like this. And this is an unacceptable spectrum of emotions to express in society. It's not allowed. If you do that, you get into trouble. And I do it, and I get into trouble. So these emotions are offerable because they're a material substance, and anything we offer to God is purified and transformed into Brahman, Prasadam. So if I offer my emotions when I'm experiencing these difficult situations, and I literally just weep and weep and weep and beg for mercy and beg for love, and beg that whatever happens can make them happy and that I can become purified, and beg for my Svarup, actually, more importantly, then these emotions are all favorable. They're only favorable if I'm connecting to my misidentification and lamenting about, oh, poor woe is me, and oh, how dare this person, or how dare that person, and how dare the government, or whatever it is. It's actually, if I'm doing that, that's going to take me away in a very dangerous and scary, horrible place. But if I'm begging and weeping, as Srila Govinda Maharaj gave us this crying school, so we have to learn how to cry. It's a school. You learn, you get taught, and we're being taught by the best weepers, Gopi Gita. They are weeping profusely in separation from their beloved. And this is how I try to deal and dovetail these emotions that can otherwise completely ruin my life, but haven't ruined my life. They've brought me closer to Radha and Krishna, Shri Guru and the Vaishnavas. So that's my understanding of emotions. So hopefully that can help some people.
Thanks for sharing.